movie guy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the movie Cemetery Man and giving kind of a review.
Yeah, with the horror movie
Oh,
Uncle
yeah.
today. Cemetery Man from 1994 is directed by Michele Soave and starring Rupert Everett. Um, Basically, on the surface of it, this is sort of an Italian zombie movie, kind of in the vein of Lucio Fulci's Zombie or the 1980 Umberto Lenzi movie Nightmare City. But I think that there's like a lot more underneath the surface subtextually in this movie than there is in uh, I think most horror movies from the 90s don't have this much going on. But just briefly, I think we can just describe like the main plot
Yeah.
points. So Rupert Everett plays Francisco Del Morte, who is the groundskeeper of a cemetery in a small Italian town. And in this town, some of the people who are buried at the cemetery, within 7 days of them being buried, some of them come back as zombies. And then it's up to him, Rupert Everett's character, to shoot them and then, make it so that they don't, escape the cemetery and whatever as zombies. So that's like the
Yeah.
basic plot of it. On like the surface, that's what's happening. It's That's not really all that's going on though in this
Yeah.
movie. Um, there's there's quite a few things that are like um, left open to interpretation in this movie. Um, there's actually quite a few different interpretations that people could have when they watch this movie. Probably every person who watches this movie is going to come away with a different interpretation. There is an actress, Anna Falchi, who plays several different characters in the movie. She starts off as sort of a widow character, and then later on plays an assistant to the mayor. And then the last character that she plays is sort of a college co-ed character, um, all played by the same actress. Not necessarily are they supposed to be,
Yeah.
the same character or really related necessarily in any way, but they're all kind of, in some way or another, the love interest of Rupert Everett's character, Della Morte. Um, so, did you want to say what you thought about it?
Yeah, so this is my first time seeing this movie, and I honestly liked it. It is definitely a weird movie, uh, and there's a lot to unpack, but overall, I liked it.
Yeah. Something to say about this movie because I think that this is a movie that really not a lot of people have seen, and it's kind of a shame because this is a movie I think deserves more praise than it gets. I think there might be people who might dismiss this movie for being just sort of a run of the mill zombie movie, but I really don't think that that's. I think it's selling itself short if you sort of dismiss this as just being another zombie movie.
Yeah.
Um, there's the character who plays the character in the movie that's sort of Rupert Everett's assistant, sort of like a slow, dim-witted type character. He's very, very weird, interesting kind of guy who you're not really quite sure like what his deal is throughout the entire thing. At one point, he sort of falls in love with the mayor's daughter, and she dies, and then he falls in love with the mayor's daughter's head, which comes back to life.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, by the way, this was made in the 90s, and there's some politically incorrect things going on here. So if you're kind of sensitive to that, this might not be the best movie to watch if you're sensitive about um, sort of like things that might be considered politically incorrect these days. This might not be the best movie to watch, but if you can have a sense of humor about things and can watch things within the context of when they were made, then it's probably fine. But just be aware that like there's certain things that were said and done in this movie that at the time may not have been as controversial as they do appear nowadays.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I should get into what my personal interpretation of the film is. Again, I'm not saying that this is the definitive interpretation of the film. I'm sure that a lot of other people have written many different things about this movie, what their interpretation is, and this is just what I personally think um, might be going on. So, my personal interpretation is that the town itself is purgatory. That Rupert Everett's character, Delamorte, he is St. Peter, and that the cemetery is actually like the pearly gates of heaven, and that his assistant, Nagi, is God. And then the woman who keeps showing up, Anna Falchi's various characters, I think that she is the devil because she sort of shows up as like a temptress throughout the movie. Um, and then there is at one point, sort of in the middle of the film, he uh, Rupert Everett's character sees sort of a Grim Reaper type character who I think is supposed to be like the Grim Reaper, the Angel of Death, who tells him to stop killing the dead and start killing the living, which I think is that's sort of like a way. It's sort of like the turning point of the film, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's like it's where it goes. That's kind of where it goes from sort of like a straightforward type film into more of like an existential film. Um, so did you want to say?
We watched this movie like 20 minutes ago, so I'm still kind of like figuring out what I think it means. But maybe I can do a video in the future talking about what I think it means. But I do agree with my uncle here about how it might be purgatory and all that. But overall, I'd probably give this movie like an 8 out of 10. I think this is a pretty fun movie. Good plot, very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go with a full 10 out of 10 for this movie. This is one of my favorite horror films of the 90s. It might be my favorite horror film of the 90s. I'm not 100% on that, but it's definitely in it's definitely in the conversation of one of the best horror films of the 90s. With Candyman and Scream and all the great horror film. When you think of great horror films of the 90s, I think that this movie should be in the conversation. I think that if more people have seen this movie, people would talk about it as one of the great horror films of the 90s, which I think only now, actually, I think people are starting to look back at the 90s and saying, hey, there were some great horror films in the 90s other than like Scream or like Blair Witch Project. Obviously people know about those movies, but if you dig a little deeper into the 90s, there's some great movies there like this movie. But yeah, 10 out of 10. um, Great performances by Rupert Everett, Anna Falchi. All of the other actors give really, really good performances. I think there's some great direction here by Michele Soavi. Michele Soavi, actually, an Italian director who worked on a lot of Dario Argento's films from the 80s. in various capacities as like assistant director or camera operator, various things like that, and also as an actor in the movie Demons. But did not make very many horror films. Only made 4 horror films, which I think are Stage Fright, The Church, The Sect, and then Cemetery Man was really his last horror film. Nowadays, he primarily directs Italian TV. Um, but this by far is his masterpiece. It's his best movie. Um, it is a absolute 10 out of 10 for me. I cannot recommend watching this movie enough. I think that if you watch this movie, I mean, you can have a good time if you just watch this movie as like a zombie movie. But
Yeah.
if you go into it also thinking, that this is a little bit deeper, I think that you'll really appreciate it even more. So,
Yeah. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Comment if you watch this movie. Give us your thoughts on it. So thank you for watching and goodbye.
bye.